You've given us some great material outlining the current landscape. And our mission, well, is pretty clear. Give you the inside track on the key differences. The real-world pros and cons and, the exciting future ahead for lithium-ion and sodium-ion batteries.
Right. Sorting through the hype and the reality.
Exactly. You want to get smart on this fast, but also thoroughly, and that's what we aim to deliver. Think of this as your shortcut to understanding a field that's, well, changing practically every day.
It moves so quickly.
It really does. I mean, we all know lithium-ion batteries. They're kind of the silent workhorses powering pretty much everything, right? Phones, laptops.
Increasingly our cars. And,
yeah, more and more cars. But now, with sodium-ion batteries kind of stepping into the ring, the big question is, what does this actually mean for how we power our future?
That is the million-dollar question, isn't it? And like you said, for, the past couple of decades, lithium-ion has really been the undisputed champ.
Absolutely dominant.
Totally. And the remarkable thing about their reign, it really comes down to one key factor: their high energy density.
Okay, explain that a bit. Energy density.
Well, it's not just some tech term. It's the basic reason why your smartphone lasts all day, hopefully.
Hopefully.
And why EVs can go hundreds of miles on one charge. It's that ability to pack a lot of punch, a lot of power into a pretty small and light package. That was the real breakthrough.
Yeah, that makes sense. It unlocked portable power in a way we hadn't seen before.
Precisely.
But it's not just about that initial energy burst, is it? Over all this time, the lithium-ion world, it's matured a lot.
Oh, massive.
We're talking constant improvements, how quickly they charge, how long they actually last.
Durability, yeah.
And the huge global network that's built up around making and supporting them. It's quite an impressive legacy.
It really is. The scale is enormous.
Okay, so let's dig a bit deeper then. If lithium-ion is so dominant, what are these sort of cracks in the armor? What's allowing alternatives like sodium-ion to even get a look in?
Right, and that's where the story gets really interesting, because while lithium-ion has these undeniable strengths, it also faces some pretty significant headwinds.
Oh, sure.
Well, the cost of lithium itself is a big one. The price can swing, quite dramatically.
I've seen those charts, yeah. Volatile.
Very. And that adds uncertainty all through the supply chain. Then, looking at the bigger picture, there are growing concerns about the environmental footprint of mining lithium, and also other key ingredients like cobalt and nickel.
Right, the ethical sourcing questions, too, sometimes.
Exactly. Those challenges, both economic and environmental, are really acting as a catalyst. They're driving the search for and the investment in alternatives.
Okay, so enter sodium-ion. Now, the first thing that really jumped out from the material was just how, well, abundant sodium is. We're not talking about some rare earth mineral here, are we?
Not at all. Precisely. Sodium is incredibly common. I mean, it's literally all around us.
Like salt in the sea kind of common.
Exactly like that. Think of it this way. Lithium is like a specific, relatively rare mineral vein you have to find and dig out. Sodium is, well, it's more like the sand on the beach or, dissolved in seawater. It's virtually everywhere.
Wow. Okay.
And that sheer scale of availability, it has a direct impact. It could potentially lead to much lower production costs. That's a huge economic plus.
Cheaper batteries, potentially?
Potentially, yes. And thinking about sustainability again, relying on something so readily available could seriously reduce our dependence on some of those more sensitive materials used in lithium-ion.
That makes a lot of sense. And I also saw something about sodium-ion performing better when it gets cold. That's not usually a strong suit for lithium-ion, is it?
That's a really interesting performance quirk. Sodium ions in some chemistries tend to move more freely within their electrolyte at lower temperatures compared to lithium ions.
Okay, so what does that mean practically?
Well, practically it means sodium-ion batteries can often deliver their power more effectively in cold climates. So like you said, for people in regions with really harsh winters, this could be a noticeable advantage over how some lithium-ion batteries perform when the temperature really drops.
Okay, so we're looking at cheaper materials, maybe more sustainable, better in the cold. Sounds almost too good to be true. What's the catch? What's stopping sodium-ion from just taking over right now?
Well, this brings us to the crucial trade-off, and that's energy density.
Back to energy density.
Exactly. At the moment, generally speaking, sodium-ion batteries have a lower energy density compared to lithium-ion.
So less power for the same size or weight.
Basically, yes. Put simply, for the same weight, the same physical volume, a sodium-ion battery will store less energy. And that's the main reason why, in their current form, you're probably not going to find them powering, say, a long-range Tesla that needs to go hundreds of miles.
The battery would just be too big or too heavy.
Exactly. Too large and heavy for that kind of application right now.
So no sodium Teslas just yet. But the sources do point to specific areas where sodium-ion could really shine, right? Where that lower density isn't such a big deal.
Absolutely. That lower energy density isn't a deal breaker everywhere. Take stationary energy storage, for example.
Like for homes with solar panels or the grid.
Precisely. Storing energy from solar or wind for homes or the grid, in those situations, the actual weight and size of the battery are often less critical than things like cost. And how long the battery lasts, its lifespan, its safety. Sodium-ion looks quite promising there.
Okay, what else?
And similarly, maybe for more budget-friendly electric vehicles, ones designed for shorter trips, like city commuting.
Right, where you don't need 300 miles of range.
Exactly. This slightly reduced range from a sodium-ion battery might be a perfectly acceptable trade-off if the car itself is significantly cheaper to buy.
Okay, so it's shaping up like lithium-ion is still the marathon runner for now.
Good analogy.
And sodium-ion is maybe more like an affordable, resilient sprinter for certain specific races.
Yeah, I think that captures it pretty well for the current state of play.
Now, let's look ahead a bit. The material you shared talks about a real explosion of innovation, almost calls it a battery gold rush. What else is happening beyond these two main players?
Oh, the level of activity, the ingenuity right now, it's truly remarkable. Solid-state batteries are getting a huge amount of buzz.
Solid state. I keep hearing about those. What's the core idea?
The core idea is replacing the liquid electrolyte, the sort of soup the ions swim through in current batteries, with a solid material instead.
Okay, and why is that potentially better?
Two main potential benefits. One is safety. Solid electrolytes are generally much less flammable than the liquids used today.
That sounds like a big plus.
It is. And the other, which is really exciting, is the promise of achieving much higher energy densities.
Even higher than current lithium-ion.
That's the hope, yes. Which, as we've discussed, could be a real game changer, especially for EVs. Longer ranges without making the batteries bigger or heavier.
And the material mentioned some big names involved. Toyota, and a startup, QuantumScape.
Precisely. Toyota's been quite public about their R&D in solid state. QuantumScape is a heavily backed startup also reporting significant progress. It's a major focus area.
Are there other promising avenues besides solid state?
Yeah, definitely. Beyond solid state, there are several other interesting technologies bubbling up. We're seeing research into lithium-sulfur batteries.
What's the promise there?
Potentially higher energy density again, and maybe lower material cost than standard lithium-ion. Then there's a lot of work on silicon anodes.
Anodes. That's part of the battery structure, right?
Right. Using silicon there could dramatically increase how much energy the battery holds. And people are even experimenting with things like graphene, looking for ways to improve conductivity and battery life. It's a very dynamic field.
Wow. It really sounds like the batteries we use today could look completely different in, say, 10 years.
It's entirely possible. The pace of change is just that fast.
Okay, let's shift gears slightly. Who's actually making all these batteries right now? The information you provided paints a pretty clear picture of the global leaders.
Yeah, if we zoom out to the global manufacturing scene, it's very clear that China currently holds, well, a dominant position.
How dominant?
We're talking a significant majority. The figures suggest over 75% of the world's lithium-ion battery production.
75%. That's huge.
It is. Companies like CATL and BYD are just massive global players. Their scale of production is really quite staggering.
Okay, so China's way out in front. Who's in the next tier?
Following China, you've got South Korea and Japan. They have very well-established, strong battery industries.
Names like LG, Samsung.
Exactly. LG Energy Solutions, Samsung SDI, and also Panasonic from Japan. These companies have long histories in battery innovation and massive manufacturing capabilities. They were key to the lithium-ion revolution.
Right. And are other regions trying to catch up? What about the U.S. and Europe? Are they building up their own production?
Yes, there's definitely a big push happening, a growing effort in other regions to, frankly, reduce their reliance on the current main producers.
Yes, and strategically.
Absolutely. In the U.S., you have Tesla's gigafactories as a major example of boosting domestic production. Europe is also making significant strides. Northvolt in Sweden is a big one.
Northvolt, right.
They're building huge battery plants, aiming to create a strong European supply chain.
And India got a specific mention regarding sodium-ion. What's the story there?
Yeah, that's an interesting strategic angle. India is putting significant investment into R&D for sodium-ion tech specifically.
Why the focus on sodium for them?
Well, it seems driven by a desire for greater energy independence, reducing reliance on imports of lithium and other critical materials.
Because sodium is abundant domestically for them.
Exactly. Given how available sodium sources are within India, focusing on that technology could offer them better long-term energy security and possibly lower costs for certain applications within their own large market.
Okay, fascinating. So let's try and pull this all together. Based on everything we've discussed from the material, what's your kind of overall take on the future here, short-term, long-term?
Well, the fascinating part is it doesn't really look like a simple case of one technology just wiping out the others anytime soon.
There's more complex than that.
Much more. Lithium-ion, it has such a strong incumbent position, and it's still improving, remember. So it's widely expected to stay dominant for a while, especially for EVs where that high energy density really matters for range.
Okay, so lithium stays king for now, especially for cars.
Pretty much. But sodium-ion is definitely carving out a really promising niche as a more affordable, potentially more sustainable option.
Especially for that stationary storage we talked about.
Exactly. Stationary storage, maybe those lower cost, shorter range city EVs, it has real potential there.
And then the longer term bet.
Looking further out, solid state really does hold that potential to be a true game changer. If they can deliver on the promise of better safety and higher energy density, well, then they could indeed be positioned to eventually, steal the crown across a much wider range of uses. But that's likely still some years away from mass market reality.
It certainly sounds like a space we need to keep a very close eye on. This has been incredibly helpful. Thanks for taking this deep dive into battery tech with me today.
My pleasure.
I feel like I've got a much clearer handle on where things stand and where they might be headed.
Glad to hear it. It's a field where innovation is just relentless, and understanding these basics, these trends, it's becoming more and more important for all of us, really.
Absolutely. And for you, our listener, we really hope this deep dive has given you that quick but thorough understanding of lithium-ion, sodium-ion, and a peek at what's next. Now, as you think about all this, here's a final thought to chew on. Given what we discussed about the current, very concentrated geography of battery production, what wider global political, maybe economic, factors might end up really shaping the future of energy storage and transport worldwide? Definitely something to think about. Thanks for joining us on the Deep Dive.